Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman.
And hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here with you. Happy New Year again. All right. I'm here with the amazing Sandy REE-vee. Hello.
Daniel, hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I mean, really, happy newer year, right?
Yes. Yeah, we've had this experience of like it being perpetual Halloween, right? Trick or treat, I mean, it's just kind of wild. So it's an interesting time. It actually makes everything else before it seem kind of boring in a way, right? So boy, those times are so boring in some ways. It's kind of interesting.
I will talk about us moving from an earth economy, and in December of 2020, this is, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, literally, we moved into a 200-year air economy. I'm an astrologer, and so we'll be talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Where are we with the astrology? What the heck's going on? People in the know like Sandy, we want to hear from. So we're going to dive into that real soon. In the meantime, we'll remind people, go ahead and press that little thing that says subscribe. Okay, all right, just go ahead and give it some love. All right, so I appreciate that. Let's talk about Sandy. So Sandy REE-vee began hand sculpting clay beads 30 years ago, and she's made these. She's done these intention beads that we're going to talk about for like really famous, people and teams and sports teams, etc. So we're going to get into that. Since first discovering her passion for bead making, she has opened bead making studios in the US and across the world in Japan and Australia. It wasn't until years later that Sandy discovered her next passion, astrology. So now, having intensely studied astrology for nearly 2 decades, Sandy has harnessed her love of bead making with her knowledge and passion for astrology through her intention beads work, hand making beads at the most powerful cosmic transits. Sandy blends art, astrology, and magic alchemy to create beautiful, intricate talismans. Her clients use these talismans to redirect their minds daily towards a big vision that they hold for themselves and finally attain it. Sandy's talismans are, in essence, tangible items for you to live your vision every day. And although that may be the center of part of all what she does, she is amazing. She takes people on spiritual journeys pre-COVID, I'm sure in the future.
True.
And she just, an amazing, beautiful person. So again, grateful to have you here, Sandy. What the heck got you into all this stuff? I always like to start with that. Like, what really got you into where you are right now? What do you do now?
2 people, Michael Jordan and my daughter. And let me just say they're not related. Okay. I know that all of a sudden, like,
where people get that different.
Whoa.
Right. Okay.
Okay, let me do it this way. Michael Jordan and my daughter. That really, I was in radiology for a majority of my life. That was my first career. And I became part of the medical team for the Chicago Bulls basketball team in the 1990s. And I was stringing clay beads for my kids. I was the room mom, and Michael Jordan, because I was the woman, I was the employee of the Bulls in the men's locker room. And Michael Jordan came in one day and said, "Hey, make me some beads," because I was stringing these clay beads. And I said, "Oh, Michael, I don't make men's jewelry." And he said, "Make me beads, I'll wear them." And so I took him literal. And that's one part of my character that you can't shade, is my integrity. right? So as integratorious as that I am, what would be the word? I have high integrity. That I took them literal and I learned how to make my Millefiori art beads. Okay, so I built a big business. I had 40 employees. I was American made. I was Chicago made, and out into the world, all because of Michael Jordan. Then, skip 20 years later, my daughter at age like 15 bought me an astrology reading as a gift. And I was like, get your money back. I'm not interested. I mean, I knew I was a Pisces, but I really wasn't interested in, I was more into the art form that I was doing. And so I went for this astrology reading, downtown Chicago, and she told me things from you've seen a natal chart, you've seen the horoscope, when, where you were, longitude and latitude matter, the date, the year, the time that you took your first breath puts the planets in a certain area of the round 12 house horoscope. And that, from that moment on, is your horoscope, your scope of the hour, which is what horoscope means. And it is your time map. Now, really, you could tell who I am from this. And she went into very, very concrete explanations that I literally thought she had Googled me. And this was, early 90s, when really Google wasn't that big of a thing. And I came home and thought, I'm intrigued. And I began immediately studying astrology. Like, how could geometric forms link? What could something way up there in the zodiac, way up there in the cosmos, have effect down here on Earth plane? That confused me, right? So I needed to study this, and that's what I did. And that was 17, 18, 20 years ago now. So it really is a journey. You'll talk to any astrologer and they will say, we are still learning. There is so much. You, Daniel, you're still, right? We are still on our journeys. And we can look at our clients or our friends or our family and go, we're not done. We're still on our journey. If we're walking this planet, we are on our journey. And that at some point flipped me, because remember, I was running a beads company, called She Beads. I did he beads, I did charity beads. I ran a pretty big company, handmade clay beads, to studying astrology, minimal practicing astrology. And one day, this is kind of my even better story than those two first, Michael Jordan and my daughter story. My best story is the day that I was in the garden. This is 10 and a half years ago. It was Memorial Day weekend, 2010. And if there's any astrologers out here listening, that was the day that Jupiter and Uranus were at the very last degree of Pisces, where my sun sits. And I literally got a message where I was planting in the garden and I thought somebody was coming up behind me to whisper in my ear. And I fell forward and I got freaked out. And by the time I stood up, nobody was there. And I heard the message and I stood up and said, I am to make talisman at a certain time for a definite reason through my energy to create what you are to call, Sandy, intention beads. I was aligned. And I went inside the house and I called my daughter because she was working with me in my She Beads company. And she had bought me this astrology reading, right? 8 years earlier. And I said, please go to GoDaddy or wherever it is you go to find a URL. I am been told to start a new company called Intention Beads. Mom, it's a Saturday. Mom, I'm on a boat. Mom, no. I'm like, Alex, I'm going to say this one time in my whole life, and I'm going to reserve it for right now. I got a message from Spirit. You've never heard me say that, and I promise to never say it again. You must go now and do it. That's the message I'm getting. I still get goosebumps when I say it. She's like, fine, I'll go find a hot spot somewhere in Lake Michigan and and she calls me back a few minutes later and said, we've got it. And really weird, Mom, it was let go 2 days ago. And it's hard, I don't know if you know anything or anybody knows anything about .coms, but I think I have 65 .coms because of my business, my, 29-year business that I ran. That's what you had to do. Business owners know that. So it was just so weird to have found the exact .com that Spirit told me to get that was available from 2 days ago. So really, Dan, that's me. That's my story.
You're sticking to it, aren't you?
Well, it's because, and people, and I've heard people say, well, I want to get a message, right? I want to get that aha thing that takes me into that direction. Astrologically, there are a situation that happened that day. Transiting Uranus, we will all get a transiting Uranus. Should we live to be 84 years old? We will have it at some point in that 84-year lifespan because Uranus takes 84 years to go around the chart, depends where your sun is. For instance, right now, as we speak today, transiting Uranus is at 6 degrees of Taurus. So anybody who has a sun at 6 degrees Taurus maybe should tune in for a message, right? I mean, Daniel, talk about it. You can get messages at a call.
Right.
You could call a message in.
Right. I mean, that's what I do, right? I mean, that's my number one gift, I would say, is my channel, my ability to tune in and just get downloads. It's here, just download everything all day. I mean, it's just kind of my playground. And in fact, there's so much that I can harness. It's like it's like when you say there's so much more to learn. Well, there's so much information available. There's no way you could, really connect with everything. And but you could spend lifetimes and lifetimes exploring everything that's available. That's kind of the fun part of it. So it is a big playground, but I feel like, I mean, there's a reason why every day that we move into the day that there's many influences on our energy, right? But I do believe in astrology. I mean, I think people that get to know about it, you can't kind of really deny it. I used to poo-poo it, when I first got into metaphysics, and I was, astrology, whatever. I'm the bomb. I'm it. Whatever the astrology says, whatever. And I did use my willpower to prove things wrong. When people say Mercury's in retrograde, I'd be like, BS, I'll watch this. People say, whatever, like whatever it was, I'd just be like the defier. And then at some point, it didn't interest me anymore. I got more into, I'd rather go with the flow of the universe. I'd rather than have to use my will to prove something all the time. I'd rather go with more of what is there. Now, I don't personally, for me, Sandy, I don't consult astrology. Maybe I should. Maybe it would be wise for me to do so. But for me, I'm more that I do just go from the downloads I get and whatnot. If I hear about something about going on with astrology, etc., I definitely listen. I will listen. I will pay attention. I don't let it rule my whole life or anything when I hear it, but it's a guiding light. It's a guiding sign, right? Like everything else to me. So that's kind of how it is for me with astrology. I never felt a compulsion like I should really, I've been curious. So it's possible in this lifetime I will explore it more. But I think it's interesting that some people are really into it and that some people really aren't. Some people totally don't believe it at all, right? So I'm kind of wondering what's up with all that. What's your take on that with astrology? Because astrology ties into what you do with the intention beads and your whole story. So we'll get into that later. But first of all, I'm wondering what your take is on all that.
Well, just the two of us here. So 100% of the people that are here, me and you, that actually can talk right now. And I'd like to ask the listeners too, kind of raise your hand wherever you are. Did you never believe in astrology? I did not believe in astrology. I was like, Alex, what is this gift? You spent this, like, get your money back. No, like it wasn't a curiosity for me. And she said, well, Mom, I really, and which is why, as I pause, interrupt my sentence, my Mercury is in Pisces. That's why I do that. And it's so true that I'll go down. I talk like this, Daniel, like a flow. Something will come in and I need to say it. I'll have to interrupt myself to say this, but I might beat around the bush, but I'll get to where I'm heading. But which is why my daughter, I know now that my daughter came into this lifetime to remind me what I did. I know that Michael Jordan came into this lifetime so that would remind me that I was a Millefiori artist of a past life, because I believe in past lives. And then my daughter's the one that said, but you have to know astrology. Now, she didn't know, right? We all have our instincts, right? We were all born with a blessing. And, it might take a lifetime to uncover that or to feel confident with it. But I wouldn't have gotten here. I would not have made Millefiori art clay beads that were known around the world if it wasn't for Michael Jordan. I wouldn't have gotten into astrology if it wasn't for my daughter who bought me an astrology reading that sparked my curiosity. So, and then blending these two together, and as a talisman maker, that's what I've done in the past life. I'm here again. Daniel, you're here in my belief again. We are all in my belief here again. So we may be leaning toward astrology or some sort of metaphysic. We may be leaning toward a religion, a particular belief, because if you notice, I'm going right and left. And, there's this balance of, just believe in something, right? That has optimal care and protection for you and for your loved ones and the world.
That's beautiful. Sandy, I have something to share on that. Okay. Like, this is something I didn't mention as we came on the show, but I know you're totally cool with it. I do challenge certain things just so that we can see what the real truth is and get your perspective. So there is a perspective that says, the hell with all that stuff, astrology, whatever it is, like the hell with all of it. We're just here to be present. It's the eternal present moment. That's all that matters. Get into stillness and be done with it. All these games you guys play, and that's the most enlightened, awakened thing you can do. What's your take on that perspective?
Find something that does awaken you. It doesn't have to be metaphysical. It doesn't have to be astrology.
Yes. Stillness itself, the belief in stillness itself could be your belief, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's just to, some sort of goal, like, intention beads are about goal setting and then manifesting the goal that you set, right? And it can be to have a better meditation practice. It has no material good, although it has, it's not creating something, but it's creating a state of being. So goals can be tangible, they can be non-tangible. The idea for believing in something is, believe in your work, believe in your family, believe in the care, in the protection that you want to provide good meals for your children and your husband and yourself, right? It's like, have a reason, have an optimal reason to get out of bed every morning. What is your service, right? What is your service to others? What is that you can provide and then get something in return without asking for it, automatic. So, you not believing in astrology, me not believing in astrology, you trying to defy it, me trying to say, yeah, forget about the Mercury retrograde. However, here's a funny thing. What I've learned and seen in practice is, Mercury retrograde, well, all planets retrograde except for the sun and the moon. Mercury just gets the bad rap. And it gets the bad rap because people get messed up in timing when Mercury's retrograde, because they're trying to move too fast. They're trying to move forward.
Right.
When Mercury, go review, rest, right? We've heard those. We've heard this. In fact, I'm tired of saying the RE words, right? Retreat, recharge. If we're doing that energy right, being in the flow, as you say, Daniel, right?
Mhm.
That's what you do. And if you're trying to be out pushing, you're going to get some no's, or you're going to misread something.
Mhm.
So what I also found is people, babies, adults, I don't, but some people have Mercury retrograde in their natal chart, right? There's about 90 days a year that Mercury is in retrograde every year, anywhere from 80 to 90 days. Lots of babies are being born during that time. Oftentimes, if you have a Mercury retrograde in your natal chart, Mercury retrograde does not show up in your living, your life experience, because you lived that as a child. You've gone through, you're figured out how to memorize, or, really count with your fingers. You've come up with practices when you were a child that Mercury retrograde comes in the sky. You're like, yeah, what up? No problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, if one is trying to defy it, it could be that they have a Mercury retrograde where it's not bothering them at all.
Mm. So everyone's different with that. I had one individual say, a colleague of mine, he was, he's into astrology for sure. He teaches it, studies it, numerology, etc. But he says, I've got a triple I don't know all these different things that in depth. So he said, I got like a triple retrograde. So I totally rest during retrogrades. And then I presented my viewpoint. I'm like, I don't know about all that, Joseph. At the time, I was still kind of leaning that way. And I was like, I don't know about all that, but I think it's great for you. I think it's so cool that you do it, though. God bless you. And then a few years went by or whatever, and I asked him about that, and he's like, yeah, I decided I don't want to do that anymore, be with do nothing on the retrogrades, or now I just do what I want. And like, he had a whole new perspective. So it's interesting. But yet I know every time we go to a chart, we're going to find evidence of why that happened, right? So like, okay, but you see in your chart, that's why that happened. That's what's so fun about this stuff.
And truly, what you do with your client work and what I do with my client work, I have the talisman clients, and then I have my, astrology reading clients that I talk to, some of them monthly. I have subscriptions, either quarterly or monthly. And literally sometimes, and you can understand this, and anybody listening to your podcast understands that there are some times in your life that you need more guidance, that you don't feel, so that you don't feel wrong or fearful, or you made the wrong decision, a year ago. That in using astrology, I can say, like a client today, I can say, well, this is why the last 6 months have been so difficult for you. Yeah. So by the end of January, you will be done with that. But this being done with that means that you should have realized a lesson from it. That's the whole point of some of these big transits to a personal planet in your chart. She was just so relieved. She's a new client that we'll be talking monthly, but she was so relieved to know, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
I validated her authenticity on how her life experience is going for her now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And the date that I gave her that it all started, this is just, she said she lives on the water, and she said that same day, and I didn't know her at the time, she said a orca, a great whale, had gotten into the bay, which is where they don't go, and let out all this steam, like came up and was trying to get out of the bay, kind of an entrapment, and finally got out. But she was like, it was that day, and it was at the same day that she had this aspect that came in that was going to like shift her perspective in her whole life. She has new friends, new home, new job, new everything. And she's like, what happened to the old? it's like the old was, it disintegrated. It was a Uranus transit. Uranus will knocked down, break down to break through. And that's the aspect I had to my son when it was like, oh my God, you got to do this. Here's that idea that I didn't know where this idea, I didn't even know what the hell talisman was. And I woke and I stood up and said, I'm supposed to make it talismans. And they're called intention beads. What the hell?
Yeah.
And I've not been off my path for 10 and a half years.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. It's amazing how it comes into us, right? Like for me, it was with the energy scanning and the energy scan technique. And, I'm like, how do I ground myself? I'm so connected because I was opening up psychically, energetically, like I was so connected, but so ungrounded. And then I needed a way to ground and then be able to focus my gift. And I was able to train people to do it. And I continue to do that. So, but it was sort of a download. It was sort of like, how do I do this? And then I asked Spirit to give me the instructions, how to utilize this gift that I have, and then able to translate it to share it with other people. And so, and yeah, you gotta listen to the signs, however you're getting them, right? So let's talk about the actual intention beads. Now, when you say talisman, I think people should know that you're talking about the actual intention beads, correct?
Right. Intention beads is the name of my company. And intention beads represents really the handmade clay beads that are talismans. So a talisman is this. It's a sacred, personal art object that is made at a certain time for a definite reason by a spirited creator. Okay, that's lots of bites right there. So an item, it has to be tangible. I use clay. I used to use raw clay in my former lifetime because the idea that it has to have been once alive, now perished, right, dead, basically, and then be brought back to life. Through the astrological cosmic connections, when planets are in good behaviors or good nature. So, each planet, and you have to be an astrologer to really find these magical times to make a talisman. And that's the part where, the art form, it must be made at a certain time, has to be aligned with the moon, has to be aligned with the ruler of the chart, which is the ascendant. It has to be when the ruler of the chart is in its own domicile or exaltation. It can't have a square or a hard aspect from one of the malefics, Mars or Saturn. So there's talismanic rules that have been written in. One of them is the Picatrix. These are grimoires that were written thousands and thousands of years ago that this came in. Now, you could call it magic. And you can also talk about, there's white magic, there's the other color magic. I don't do that color magic, right? I call in the beneficial qualities. I wait for the planets to get into their, beautiful natured placements when they're aspecting, and they're not always, like I'm not making any beads today. We got Mars coming up on the big planet. We got Mars transiting Mars, getting ready to conjunct Uranus on the 20th of January. I don't know when we're going to air this, but it's like, I saw that a year ago. It's like, and that's inauguration day. Oh, okay. Military force. What is all that about? So, you don't get an expression of these major vibrating high frequency planets. We're just one of them. We're a planet. So we do our own gig. We do our own thing, but we're the humans that receive it down here on Earth because the moon brings it to us. The moon is the one that moves around so fast that sheds the light onto the Earth. But it has to bank from Venus or Jupiter or even Saturn or Mars or Mercury or the sun. So it's a big study.
Yeah.
And the thing about, find it, like in part of the description is for a particular purpose. That purpose has to be in alignment with those planets. So my writing, my cards that I write, and I know you can't read it and you're not supposed to, I can read it for you. The date, the time, the place, where the glyphs are. So if you're an astrologer or an astrology student, you can go put this in and create the chart. And then the affirmation that I wrote that you read, that I mantraed in for about 100 times while I handmade the beads at this exact moment. So, Daniel, it's like, you have kids. I've met your daughters. I have kids. It's like, should a baby be born on this date, this time, this place, this baby would hold this energy. Well, we're not doing that anymore, right? But I can make a talisman. I can set in my schedule by looking in advance on I use Solar Fire, on my astrology software, and move things ahead and go, ooh, Venus is going into her own sign of Taurus. Ooh, I'm going to grab something here. Moon in Taurus, exalted, conjunct this Venus. Ooh, I want to grab that energy.
Yeah. So this is how you do it, which is fascinating that you do it in such a, such precision, with the alignment of what's happening. It's what it sounds like. So so by creating it in certain moments and that alignment of that energy is then transmitted into the actual talisman, is what you're saying?
It comes back to life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, we are in the 21st century, and I use now not clay from the earth that I used to. I use a millefiori. I use actually the clay, the actual colors of clay are made here in Chicago. So it's a American made product, but I put the patterns in the clay. That's the millefiori art part. And so these are very durable. They have a plastic in them, it's a poly, I forget, I'm missing out on the word right here. That when I bake them, because it has to go through some sort of transformational power. So it has to have some fire. So when I bake them, after I formed them and rolled the intention into them, they have to go into the oven and bake. So they harden, and that's where it sets. And then I string them into a bracelet. I have a gratitude piece. It's very key. That's this little dangle thing you can kind of see hanging down here. Because we have an intention, which is the goal. And I'll read this one. I wear this one every day, particularly the days that I'm doing my readings. I mean, I just counted, I'm running a 7-day intention challenge coming up tomorrow for my talisman wearers. And one lady has 23 intention bracelets. I don't even have that many. But, this one, for instance, is to attach to the linear and non-linear thought processes, right? Because and I made this for me because it's I need to bring in my study. I need to bring in the truth. I need to bring in the knowledge. And then I use my intuition, the non-linear, right? And I ask them to come together right at the perfect moment. So the affirmation of this is, as quickly as I need these thoughts, ideas, and solutions, they appear. I make note of these speedy messages and contain those that work best. So when I'm doing my readings, or when I'm doing my teaching, or I'm doing my intention work, I got to bring in left brain, right brain, put it together and say, yes, that's what I want right here. I let the rest go. Because you were just saying, that's so funny. You were just saying there's so many downloads.
Right.
Right? You just said multiple lifetimes of information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This helps me. This one bracelet here that I wear, like I said, I don't want to get riddled and just, I ask for something, it comes in, I deliver it, and I throw the rest away. And that's how I do some of my readings.
Yeah.
So like that's this intention bracelet. They're all different. Some are like, hey, to have an optimistic attitude. There's days that you need that. And then there's some that are asking for a particular amount of money by a particular day, to have a child, to heal an illness. So you can get real specific. And then you can get real general. And I think everybody needs a general. You know, mine is to own a positive attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some days recently that I needed to put that one on so that I wasn't in the muck, right? In the reality checks of, you know, how we walk. And I had to raise up out of that. And I just used my intention bracelet that day to pull me up, and it works.
Right. Right. It is so fascinating, you know, so fascinating, all of it. Because I think about like items I've selected, you know, that are crafted with all the intentionality and magic that you create, but just as simple as this necklace, like, I mean, just whatever it is, the clothes you wear, everything, like there's a sense, there's a purpose, there's a reason behind everything, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously. And so it's fascinating how, you know, you can, I mean, it's obvious to a lot of us, but like it's fascinating how we can anchor intentions and energies into everything. So, you know, you can do it with your computer, you can do it with your phone, you can do it with everything. And I think it's something just worth mentioning on the program today. So what you're doing is for people too, for our spiritual rock stars, they have a big, huge vision for what they want to manifest, and they have a big goal or whatever you want to call it. You know, you've made many. I would say that's probably, I don't know, is that one of your more popular ones? It's probably the one you get paid big bucks for to do those.
Well, Daniel, they're all different. I make
Yeah.
no two alike.
True. No, I get that, but I'm
Oh.
saying like people that want a big vision would probably be like really like, wow, sure, I'll invest deeply in that, right? So
I see. Yeah.
yeah.
Typically, you know, like I'll get somebody that, you know, because I have two types of talismans. There are ones that are called universal, that are already made. So any energies that have come up to this date and this moment that are available are on my website, intentionbeads.com. And those are called universals. Those are for anyone to use. So you could go through and look at the intentions, you know, click in, get to the affirmation, see the color, see the style, and choose to work that energy. Then I have the personals, which are not made yet, that are personal to you and your birth chart. So you need an hour conversation with me so I can look at your chart with you. We do it Zoom, you know, everything's Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And I go over to make sure not to make sure, wrong word, but to talk about your innate energy that you were born with, that you said you wanted. In my, in my belief, I believe that we choose the time to be born so that we want that energy to get that, to do that work on this land, in this bag of bones, this time, right? So I believe we choose. And so I believe we choose our mom and our dad, and we choose our situation because it's part of the journey, the plan, the scenario. And the personals, then you are involved in writing the intention. You are involved in writing the affirmation. I base it on your chart. So I watch the current energies moving, you know, onto a natal chart and find the time. Usually it's not more than 6 weeks in advance from that moment. And they're in the actual timing, spirit timing, meaning, hey, yours let's just say, Sarah, your personal intention bracelet, I need to make it at 2:45 a.m. Central Time. You know, you may live in Germany. We have to do that time zone change. And she is in meditation, repeating the same intention and affirmation that we helped her write, while I'm saying it, making her beads. So it's almost like, Daniel, you can appreciate this, right? The pyramid, the connection of her, me, spirit is raining, literally, both terminologies, raining down on her energy and this talisman.
Mhm.
So she's involved in it. It's a three-legged stool we need to stay balanced and stable. So there's a lot to it. I'm very much respectful of my work. I hold high, like I said, high integrity on what I say I can do, what I say I do. And that's the rest of my life while I'm here in this bag of bones.
Oh, wow. So, what are some of the what are some of your one or two of your big stories of what's happened for people? Do people consistently see the sort of results they're kind of hoping for? And tell us like one or two of your big stories too.
Well, one of my big stories you could probably relate to is it's someone, we run into each other, you and I, for how many years at body, mind, spirit shows, at metaphysical events, really not just here in Chicago, but around the country. And it was at one of these that someone bought and I don't do it. There's not a whole lot of time for pregnancy, for fertility. And she had been trying IVF, everything. And then her and her husband gave up. And she bought the one bracelet I had for pregnancy. And about a year later, we're at that same show again. And I don't know if you were there this particular time, but we're at the same show again. And she wheeled up in the stroller her little 2-month-old baby. So, I've heard multiples of those that are looking for pregnancies that produce. It makes me think of the one woman who she wanted to stop drinking. She was a closet alcoholic, and she didn't want anybody to know, like her husband or her kids. Although I don't know how you hide that. And so she came in and bought the bracelet to really to stop the escapism of either drugs or alcohol or some sort of addiction. Could be sex, could be shopping, could be, self-loathing, whatever the addiction is. And she bought the bracelet, and about 2 months later, she came back in and she's like, "It's not working. It's not working." I'm like, are you wearing it? Are you doing the ritual that you have to do every day? Read your intention. It's on the card. You don't have to make one up every time. You have to use the same one.
Yep.
Pray the affirmation, the I am statement. It's there on the card every day. And get into your gratitude. And be grateful for something new every day. And watch things starting to come back to you as you watch the awareness of universe's response to your intention. She came in about 4 months later and said, "I'm done. I don't drink anymore." I had to come out. She had to come out to her family, and they were like, "Yeah, Mom, we already know. You smell like a..."
Yeah.
But what happened is she was getting sick, and she wasn't aware of her illness. But in the gratitude part every day, she'd be like, "I don't feel so good. Please bring me a happier day." And she was starting to correlate the not so good to the alcohol intake. And at some point, she just flipped and got rid of it. Now, we don't know one's intention versus one's natal work or journey in the world. But like we said, kind of before we started, was like, point your arrow away somewhere high. You know, it's like Sagittarius, right? The sign that is half man, half horse. And he's got this bow and arrow that's going at a 45-degree angle. He's like, I'm shooting for something over there. It's not here. It's over there. So I'm going to reach somewhere around there if I take focus. If I know my bullseye, and that's the intention. What is your bullseye? All right. Am I getting a little too riled up here?
No, not at all. Not at
Like,
all.
you know, I'm so Pisces. I'm so like calm, cool, and collected. But man, my Mars can take off sometimes because I'm just so dedicated to this work.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's great. So, and then you with Michael Jordan, I don't, all I know is he had a lot of success. I know he was having it probably before he asked you to do the
Yeah.
piece. He had a lot of success in basketball.
Well, remember, I wasn't making intention beads when I made beads for, I mean, I didn't know I had the power. I didn't know I had the, this intrinsic blessing, you know, like your blessing. I didn't know I had that then.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the things that I'd like to, to talk about on, just briefly right now. We don't have to know what it is to know that we have it.
Right.
Right. It's like, we don't know why we were doing that, but we were all on the journey. We were all on our way to some realization that, boom, once we got that realization, we were like, all set. I know how to do it. And so when I go back to the Michael Jordan story in the 90s, I didn't start making talismans until 2010. But in early 90s is when I had started my business because Michael Jordan asked me to make him beads.
Yeah.
I wasn't making beads and I hadn't built my he bead business yet, which then led to my she beads business, which led to my charity business, which led to my intention bead business. So he's the one that got me started as a millefiori artist. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard the word millefiori. It means tiny flowers, and it's a Venetian technique of ancient history. It's kind of like Murano glass. Are you familiar with the little tiny patterns that go in the long glass rods?
Murano. I'm not sure, but yeah, I got maybe.
And it's an Italian company that, gosh, anybody goes to Italy, they bring back some sort of paperweight or pin or earrings that have some sort of millefiori Murano glass. I do that in clay. Now, where did I learn that? I did not go to school. Could not go on .com and find out. I intrinsically knew how to do millefiori art. Yep. And I built a very, very successful business doing that.
Yep.
So that's what Michael Jordan reminded me, that I was a clay bead artist in a past life.
Yeah.
And I say that because I would say, oh, how do I know that? I didn't at the time. I just thought, oh, this is something I really like doing. I'm going to do this. It's going to be my hobby. And then I turned it into my business. And then astrology became my hobby. And then I turned that into my business.
Right.
I've got Mars in Capricorn. So anything that I enjoy doing, that I want to put my effort into, I have to turn it into a business. It's a career. It's not a job. I've never had a job.
Right.
One thing I wanted to mention about, so at one of these events, but this was kind of years and years and years ago, I went to a psychic. And, they don't know you from, they don't know me, they don't know anybody from anybody. And she said, you're going to meet a very famous man who is going to remind you of what you've done in a past life, that pulls up that information and you carry it through in this life. And I'm like, it already happened. Right? Because I already met Michael Jordan. I worked with him every night for 8 years. Well, not every night, because just nights we had dating.
Yeah, right.
And I really liken the idea, Daniel, and you can continue to ask me questions, but I kind of want to leave this kind of impression that, oh, I always like hearing that. I never know what I'm saying when I get my little chime ding, which means it's true. Doesn't mean that everything else I've said is not true, but it just means point to note yourself that radiology is the study of unseen energy. X-ray, right? X-ray.
Right.
It is an unknown. I got into that when I was in 6th grade, when I broke my arm, and I knew I wanted to be that when I grew up. Astrology is the study of the unknown. And each one of them, radiology can go into the body to find the broken, diseased, stuck, growths that don't belong, energy there. Astrology can do the same thing. I just kind of want to drop mic there to say that I love being in the space of unknown and bringing it into a tangible offering.
Yeah. Yeah, into the physical. Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, we just all do it in different ways, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be the messenger. You're the messenger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It's got to come in somehow, right? That's for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting when you look at, if everybody just takes a look at their own path and their own story, yeah, you see how some level or another, you're living your purpose, every step along the way in some form or fashion. It's always there, because you can't help but to be yourself to some degree. And so it's always there. So I think that's something that people can take away from what you said, because I find it to be very helpful for me to remember things, like, oh, well, like, why is it that I'm interested in this thing? Or why am I like this or like that? And you can find like all the clues, from the past, you can see how, where the clues were, like what started, like when you first had the awakening of, oh, wow, that's true for me, like, why was I playing around trying to manipulate energy when I was a kid, when no one talked to me about it, but I just felt like I could make things happen. Yeah. Okay. And it just was natural to me, so, yeah. So it's just the things that come natural to us. We have to remember those, awaken to those. Then you go talk to Sandy, and she can strengthen you with her. She can help strengthen you too with what she does. So Sandy, we are at a place where we're going to have to start wrapping things up for today. What I like to do, if you'd like, and I've done some before for you, I'd like to do a quick 1 or 2 minute tune in on you for my guests. So yeah, so we could see what's happening, what wants to be shared today. Are you ready to receive?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, let's see what wants to come through. Well, first message, they just want to remind you have legions of angels. We all have our angels, but you have really incredible amount of a light team, and I see a throne coming in. So I really get this deepening in your divine authority feeling around it. So to really own that even more, like just that you're so in your divine authority. And so I just have me, you're looking up at the stars and taking everything in, and you just trust more than ever what you know to be true. So this is a message, like just more than ever. So if you're off even 1 or 2 degrees, it's like, no, all the way, all the way, baby. All right, so that's one thing. Let's see what else wants to come through here. Well, hold on. There's always, like I said, there's so much. I have to slow it down. Hold on. That's interesting. You mentioned the black magic stuff. You didn't say the word, I did. Okay. But yeah, you made reference to it. They're just saying, there's something about your past with that. So they just wanted to say, I just get a message of like this heartfelt, like this sense of forgiveness around that. Like you're just such a light, leader or warrior or whatever you want to call it, but that, it's time to let that go, like even more, like full, like, okay, acknowledging that was what it was, just like other patterns, like in this life, they were what they were. It's time. I see like sending off like a little boat in the water, like just like, okay, it's gone, it's done, like it's a physical way to let it go. Like, I don't know if you'll burn it or something, like maybe it's burning, like little letters you put on there or something, like little notes or something. You're just letting it all go and just like, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to come back home. We're all destined to come back fully back home. So again, there's tons of things we can share. These are just some messages I want to share with you today. Sandy, any quick reflections or thoughts on anything that I shared?
So I know I was a pretty important person in a past life that I was drowned for. And it was about messages that I had in, I never got the black magic. I never got that, but people sought me out for things. And I'm just wondering if that's one of the reasons why I was drowned. And so I think that's where you got the water, because, I can also relate it to astrology, but it's very clear that I am to do it different this time.
Yeah.
Same thing. That's why I don't even use the word.
Yeah. I get it. So yeah. Many times in our past lives, for everyone listening, we have utilized our healing or magical, just natural magical abilities. And they've been seen as that, right? This is dark energy. This is bad. And that definitely has been part of your path. That is true. So I can confirm that for you. So anyway, so I'm grateful to share with you. And yeah, thank you. All right. And I just want to share with everybody, as we're letting that be cleared, let's just know this is being cleansed and cleared, that we're all coming back home into the light, back into the Sacred Heart, knowing that this deep divine surrender into the sweetness that we've come from is allowing ourselves to experience the clear sailing that's here for us in this journey right now. No matter how chaotic the fringes may be, we're sailing clearly, and we're letting ourselves be guided by the astrological energy, by the moon, by that energy. It's guiding, it's pulling us. We're pulled by it. We're surrendering to it. So we're all free now. Be free of these accusations, free of this old karma, and come back home. Thank you, God, and so it is.
And so it is.
Sandy, you something evoked. I don't usually actually do like a mini clearing on these things, so that was a new one. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right.
Thank you for seeing me. Yeah.
Sure thing. And if people want to check me out, go to yoursacredpurpose.com. There you can get a meditation called Meditate and Make Money. So see, from the invisible, we let it just have it come into the tangible. Yeah, just like we were saying. So get your meditation, open up your energies, get your downloads each day. I do have one notable colleague that tells me, I hear from everybody. She uses it all the time. She says she just keeps making more money, and she attributes the meditation to it. So make sure you get your meditate and make money meditation at yoursacredpurpose.com, and there's opportunities to get an energy scan consultation by going there as well. Okay, great. Well, boy, we've outdone ourselves today, I think. But I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor here as we're wrapping up. Sandy, any last things you'd love to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Well, just that, thank you for inviting me, Daniel. We've been trying to get this together for a while, and it just so beautifully worked out today. And, you know, just as we're in this new air economy that we just moved into December 21st, really, and for 200 years. So we're out of the earth economy that we were in for 200 years. We're moving into the air. And here we are sharing our information. That's air. On Zoom, that's air. Again, things that are not tangible, but we do live in a tangible earth-centered world that we do need safety, money, food, shelter, clothing, right? We do need, but we don't need as much as we have acquired. Mm. So I just leave everybody with go learn some more about who I am, what my daughter and I do. Be on the next Bali retreat sooner than later. And it's intentionbeads.com. We have a podcast that Alex and I, my daughter, who's 32, I'm 64. And there's a really nice synergy between my daughter and I because we bring in two different generations and we talk along the same paths. And our podcast is Astrological Intentions. And I do my Instagram page when we've got transits going on. You know, I do readings, I do talismans. So just go to intentionbeads.com and circle around.
Oh, that sounds fun. I sure will. I haven't been there in a while. All right, Sandy, great. Well, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Thanks, Daniel. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Bye now.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for listening. Keep on tuning in. We'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time, everyone. Goodbye for now.
You're listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Wednesday and Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.